I'm delighted to be speaking to Martin Anderson today from Lemon Business Solutions. Lemon Business Solutions are one of the premier outsourcing companies in the Northeast. Martin, tell me about outsourcing, please.
Wow, it's a big subject, really, isn't it? There's a lot going on. So essentially, the very base of outsourcing is we take a process or a service that a company does, and they outsource it to us. So they give that process service for us to complete for them, and that frees up time and efficiency for them to concentrate on maybe their core work. So typically outsourcing might include a back office function or core management, maybe reception, that kind of thing. And it allows us to do the expertise of that while they focus on maybe their core part of their business.
Okay, so a company which is getting lots of inbound sales calls, you can take over those inbound sales calls on their behalf, but answering as if you were actually within that company and sitting in their buildings. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly that. So it can be inbound sales calls, reception calls, fault help desk, anything really. You probably actually find a lot of times when you actually speak to another company, you're probably speaking to an outsourcer one way or the other. There's so many companies out there that use third parties to provide a service, and we just do act as if we are them. And essentially, our team put on their hats when they answer their calls. We answer in their trading names. We follow their processes, their scripts, use their systems. We engage with their ethos with our team. So we are essentially part of them when we're working on the contract.
So you would have that information and your team would be almost like a receptionist. So take the information, analyze who they need to speak to in the organization, and they would forward the call to the relevant company.
Yeah, that could be sort of a simple switchboard service, exactly that, take the call in and then transfer it through to someone. But then it can go to sort of the other degree, and when you start adding a lot of value regarding maybe, let's just say, a fault finding kind of service, where maybe it's got a small engineering company, they want a party to do maybe some sort of first line fault finding to how do they help customers maybe fix a problem remotely and do that kind of thing. So our team can go into that kind of processes, diagnostics, all kind of things really. There's all different levels to what can be outsourced, and it's just a matter of applying the people and the process to it really. So yeah, there's any system and any process that a business does can be outsourced.
So what sort of other back office tasks would you undertake generally? What would be a common thing for you to do?
A lot of it can be around sort of fault finding, managing things like that, reception services as well. As you said, sales support, making sure that any sales calls are coming in, be answered, working on maybe CRMs, like Salesforce or the typical ones out there. We do outbound campaigns as well. That can be sort of marketing, some sort of lead generation as well. Yeah, it's just so varied. You can take processes from HR, from finance, from operations departments, anything really, because sometimes these processes are very necessary for the business to operate, but the management team or directors might be sat there going, we don't need our core team who've got maybe skills that can be added more to the front line and more value internally to be doing that process. We can pick that process up, give it to a third party, a BPO like Lemon. They can complete that task for us. We'll be charged either per minute or per hour, depending on what it might be. And it works out cheaper and more cost effective doing that than having, these really core staff to us who could be supporting the front line, whatever it might be. So an example might be an engineering company, lots of engineers doing stuff, plumbers, electricians, whatever. You don't want them guys having to be doing more work in the office. They want to be out doing the actual frontline work, really.
Yeah, so it strikes me at the moment, we're obviously in the middle of the pandemic at the moment, that people have got used to remote working. Lots of company directors are actually going to think, hey, this can actually really, really work for us going forward. We don't need to have someone in the office who is perhaps not active on a full daily basis. They're almost working part-time, waiting for the phone to ring. We can have you working just when you actually need to work.
You know what, 2 points there that you raised that are really, really valid. Firstly, efficiency levels. When you outsource, often you can get up to 100% efficiency, because if you're paying for someone to do something and they're being timed literally by the second or by the millisecond, you're paying for that productivity. If you're going to employ someone in your office, for best will in the world, even if they're a really hard worker, there's downtime, they've got to have comfort breaks, they're going to get a cup of tea, they're going to chat because it's natural. So you're going to have less than optimum efficiency because we're not robots, completely understandable. But when you outsource it, you're getting that really high efficiency level. And that's where the real sort of big cost efficiencies come into it as well. But the other point he made, which is fascinating, and I would say has been an unexpected kind of turn, as many things have happened from 2020 and the pandemic. The fact that the general sort of business psyche now is happy for people to work remotely. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are doing it by sending their own staff home, but in the past, everyone had to be in this very tight, almost draconian office environment. So you had that kind of connection. And we realised we sent people home, and from my own business perspective, I've got people now actually working more efficiently and better output from working from home, which I never saw coming. But other businesses are seeing that now. And I've actually noted, there was a stat that came out that I read this morning, I think it was 31 or 32% of businesses now are looking at outsourcing further in 2021, because they can see if we can grow our business, we can outsource and give these processes to specialist teams. But not only that, it's some of the risks that come in with the disparate workforce, where you've got everyone working from home. You can start, if it's a process that needs controls to some extent, by giving it a business process outsource, so they'll have the security, data protection controls in place as well, so you're making sure you're not losing any of that important risk that could be imposed by having disparate workforce.
And then what sort of, I think sometimes can be quite scary, or not scary, but a small business might think, I'm too small to actually approach someone like yourself. But I mean, you mentioned plumbers earlier on. A plumber might be there working, they can't be answering the phone. Do you work with sort of sole traders, just by literally a sole trader, and looking after their inbound calls?
Yeah, absolutely. Have sole traders, two-man bands. There's a great example of a lift company, an engineering company based down in London. And I met the guys, actually, in the first meeting was in King's Cross. The two directors, they'd left a much bigger company and set up their own business. So we went down there, just met by a restaurant of the platform, and had a chat with them, set the service up. They took it on board. And them guys are flying now, and where they're still there for them, because they sorted that part of the business out. This was providing call management essentially to them. They knew that they now always had someone that answer every single call quickly and professionally, act as their front end and back office, but also 24/7 what we provided, because being in that game, they need to be on call, as you mentioned, 24 hours a day. And it allowed them to focus on growing the business. And the two clever guys, and that's exactly what they did. They went off, won contract after contract after contract, and then we just backed them up and grew and scaled it up with them, and it allowed them to do that. But I can think my own sort of career path, and I remember times when we were very small, and you miss one call, just one call, and that call may be the call. And we had a contract with a large national. It's generated millions and millions for us over the year. But I still remember taking that call, and if I'd missed it, it would have gone to someone else. And that's the importance of it. It's not expensive to outsource. In fact, it's cheap when you think of what you could be losing.
Absolutely, I see it all the time when people won't take this call. I have a friend who's now in a senior position in a corporate. He's CEO of a big company. But we used to go out on a Friday night in our mid-20s, and I'd be there sitting by myself in the pub because he was taking a business call.
Yeah.
Because his company worked globally, and I'd sit there literally for an hour and a half while he was doing a deal or negotiating, and and he was on the shop floor then, but now he's CEO. It's what you've got to do, because that call could have been huge.
And you mentioned you don't have to put the pressure on yourself by using an outsourced company. You don't have to answer the phone 24/7. You can use it. Go in and can just help you scale. We're a 24/7 world, aren't we? I don't think we can get away from it.
And what about do you answer emails as well? Are they directed to you from sort of general accounts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's another really, really interesting point. I mean, traditionally, back in the day, we were doing voice and fax when I kind of first started up. Fax, thankfully, is gone now. But then emails obviously came in quickly after. And an email, exactly the same thing. For us, it's just like another way of communication. The email comes in, we can handle it. It may trigger an action or a process to follow, or replying directly to the email and doing the customer service support. But that's also evolving now. With technologies, hate to use buzzwords, but omni-channel and sort of blended communications is really the thing now. So you've got your voice, you've got your email, you've got your messaging apps, which is the biggest thing, your WhatsApp, your Facebook Messenger, your usual sort of SMS and text, these, and web chat as well, of course. These are things which, for one of them, from our perspective as an outsourcing company, they're all exactly the same. When they come into us now, they come into one platform. The operator can engage with the consumer on one place, and yeah, it's definitely the thing. Sadly, voice is still king, but you know, the other ones are catching up.
Yeah, and also another thing where personal experience. So I've hired a PA in the past. I have a little book publishing company, but the amount of emails we had in with annoying, silly questions where the information is actually all on the website. This is the size of the book, this is what it costs, everything, and email after email asking things. I did actually lose the ability to be polite. How much I wanted to, and I thought, actually, no, I've got to hire a PA. So she'd come in only sort of 3 or 4 hours a day, and she did other things as well. In the end, she was absolutely amazing. But someone like yourself, we're in a great company to outsource to, and just deal with all that for me instead of having someone on the payroll. So there's sort of many opportunities to do that. Obviously, it's going to depend on the size of any organization, but generally for a small business, you're taking inbound calls. What is the sort of the lead time with you, the setup time to learn their processes and their philosophies in their systems?
Yeah, we average about 4 weeks to get a customer off the ground, depending on the complexity. If we have it, don't get me wrong, we set them up within 48 hours. We did a particular COVID support line for a local government, and that was done within sort of, I think it was in 48 hours, but generally 4 weeks, because it's important. I mean, you touched on it there with kind of the PA story, and it's a great example of kind of a customer service support in many ways, but it's important that we transfer knowledge. And that's one of the things for Lemon, how we approach our business. We were not highly script driven. For me, we like our operators and our team to know about the business, know the ethos, why you're there, what you do, what it is, why are they asking these questions, not just asking it from a list of questions. What is it about the business, what we're trying to achieve together. So we spend a bit of that time sort of transferring that knowledge across. But what you also mentioned there was a great point about those kind of, I suppose, what we class FAQs, really, that kind of typical questions that you'll be battered back and forth. And we as a business have developed knowledge base databases that we can use to pick that knowledge up, put it into a database, and give it to the operator right in the front line. So we can update that, keep it regularly active with anything that's changing the business, and just empower them to actually to essentially provide an excellent level of customer service to the end person who's contacting the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think I should point out to the viewers and the listeners as well, the size of your operation, that you actually handle about, is it 2 million calls a year?
Yeah, 2 million, that's voice calls, yeah, and there's emails and all that on top of that. So it's pretty active, yeah.
So in terms of your growth as a company, obviously you've had to expand and hire staff, perhaps in a rapid scale to actually accommodate getting new clients on board. How hard is it for you to develop? When you first, I imagine now you have an HR department to look after your staff. But when you first started out, I mean, what sort of mistakes were you making in HR, or were you pretty proficient?
Oh, I made lots of mistakes.
Yeah, so same here. This is what I find intriguing, because we don't know what we don't know, and a hire is going to be a very expensive investment in terms of time and money. And do you have any advice on what people can do when they're looking at hiring their first 1, 2, 3 members of staff?
Yeah, it is. I mean, my biggest thing is don't beat yourself up about it. You're going to make mistakes. We used to go on a ratio of, if we want a person, we probably have to employ 3, and then you'll land the one that's right. And that's no one's fault. That's not your fault. That's not the employee's fault. And that's not the position. Sometimes people don't know until they try. Same in a job, really. But it's getting to, for me, and I know this is probably been talked about many times before, but it's getting to know the person from it's not their technical ability, it's what their mindset is, really. What do they bring from an emotional perspective to the business? Do they link in with you about what your short, medium, long-term goals are? Do you understand where you want to go, what you want to achieve, and what it might involve? Depending where you are as a business, if it's right at the beginning, all of you are going to be doing lots of things that kind of aren't on the job. You're not on a list of jobs, tasks. You're going to be doing everything from making the tea to cleaning the toilets, to doing the actual work. You do everything from day one, and as it develops, that refines a bit. But Early days I've used recruitment agencies. Today we do it in house. I've done recruitment. Tried myself, but it's just getting to know that person. Don't worry too much about the technical side, because you can teach that if they're proficient. It's about behaviours really. As long as they've got some of the core aspects that you need, then go with behaviours, because if they've got the right behaviour and you invest in people and give people time, then some of my best employees now are people, maybe if I think back 10, 15 years ago, I was thinking they're not going to be here very long. And now, now they're the lieutenants in the team who know you inside out, know the business, and are committed because you've committed to them. It's it's not just one way.
You just answered my next question, because by investing in the people and showing interest in them, then surely, because I think in a call center traditionally it may be a little bit of a transient job for perhaps graduates before they went on to do something or other. But if you invested into them, then they become, the churn is a lot lower. They become invested into you. And what else do you do to retain your staff? Do you have any particular schemes which have worked particularly well over the years, or are you just wonderful, nice people and everyone just loves working with you?
Well, I mean, again, two really good points. I had a virtual call, a tender, quite a big tender we were in with the big companies the other day, and their commercial director was talking to me, and he asked a very similar question. So he said, "Martin, you're in a contact center, what's your turnover of staff like? What's the actual number?" And embarrassingly so, I said, "You know what? I can't give you the figure off the top of my head. I just don't know." And where I'm thinking, "Oh God, I've made a mistake here. I don't have the stat for him." He turned around to me and said, "I'm very glad you said that, because if you did know, it meant it was an important thing to you. But from everything you said now, I know that your staff retention isn't a problem. You haven't got the stat there. You've answered every other stat perfectly. So that means for you, it's not." So ironically, I turned out to win. So I was pleased with that. But as far as sort of staffing in general is concerned, it's just, we've tried things in the past, some are sort of gimmicky things that kind of go around and become the new fashion sort of that people do. But it comes down to treating people well. And there's always, I was speaking to a guy who was in the army once. He came and did some work on site for us. And I remember he told me, just think of everyone like they've got MMFI tattooed on the forehead. And that's make me feel important. And if you treat everyone with that kind of respect and importance, and when you're in the room, this is, employees, customers, prospects, whatever, at that point in time, they are the most important people to you. And I think you treat everyone with that respect and genuine respect, generally care for people. Gimmicky stuff is irrelevant. It comes and goes, and get it from anywhere. Just genuine care for people. And ultimately, the more I care for my staff, the more we look after them, at that kind of personal level, the harder they work, and the better service we provide. So, I think the more you give, the more you get back, isn't it? It's that adage.
Yeah. I think that's a really good analogy, actually. And I'm going to adopt what you, is it MMFI?
MMFI, yeah. It's not mine. I can't claim it. I was told it, but yeah, make me feel important.
Yeah, because I always used to say, be a dog. Because when do you ever meet a dog who's not happy to see you?
Yeah.
Whatever day it comes in, it's wagging its tail, and it's love, isn't it? And if you can adopt that, really nice to see your customers. Because so many times you go somewhere and it's, oh God, damn customer, what a drag. I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and you can just lose sight of it. And yeah, everyone. I used to work in a Michelin-starred restaurant, many years ago in the 90s. And yeah, customers are so vitally important. I think it was a core skill that people who worked in a restaurant or a hotel, they know how to make people feel important. I can hear the dogs now going off. I'm a victim of COVID, working from home here, door outside.
It's absolutely critical. That customer service ability, that natural, and it's funny, sort of different careers kind of almost train naturally. So like a hairdresser or a barber's, some of them, guys and girls, they have the best sort of customer service. And that's, for me, how a lot of businesses done. I've been to, hospitality, like you mentioned there. I remember staying at a really nice hotel up in Edinburgh by the castle, and going in there, and film stars, pop stars stay there. And I remember the guy in the concierge, when I was younger, certainly nothing to show for myself. It was just kind of a couple of nights with my girlfriend at the time. And he said, I don't care whether you're the candlestick maker, the butcher, the baker, or a rock star, you get treated exactly the same.
Yeah.
And he did. And it was awesome. And that them kind of learnings that you sort of get in your life as you get older and get a few grey hairs sort of stay with you and you understand that. But just to touch on the point you mentioned there, about sort of having to deal with people day to day, because especially last year we get run down, we have bad days, whatever personal things, as when you could go in the office, you went in the office, or whatever it might be. One of the things that I learned as part of sort of a business coaching and things, the ability to set a mindset. So before you go into a meeting, before you go into a presentation or do a video call, you just need to give yourself 3 seconds to put that yourself into a different place. You can use sub-personalities and give that person a different name, but go, right, I'm now going to be this person when I walk through the door. It's like that old kind of, that old pop thing used to be on, I'm going to be this person, walk through the door and present in this way and be the person I want to be. Not that I'm annoyed because I'm flustered, I've got what going on. This person, and that time you're in your meeting, that's who you are. When you walk back out, be miserable again and frustrated because you've got to do invoicing. But that moment in time, just be that person and set yourself.
You're almost being an actor. And I can remember I've had to I suppose it was cold calling. I used to do wedding photography once upon a time, and I had a very nice job in London, and very well paid. I didn't like it. I said I'm leaving. Gave the notice in, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I decided I photographed my friend's wedding. I was going to be a wedding photographer overnight. I didn't know anything about it really. But long story short, I went to a wedding show, and also I couldn't go to a wedding show, but I got a database of all the brides and grooms who'd been to the wedding show. And everyone, would be there, emailing them, hi, sorry to have missed you. Can I come and introduce you? But I thought, actually, no, everyone's doing that. I've got to phone them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like cold calling. Absolutely hate it. But actually, it's something which has got to be done. It's about their wedding. Why would they not want to talk about their wedding? And it's a very simple call. It's like, hi, is that, is that whatever the name may be? I know, sorry I missed you at the wedding show. Just wondering if you booked a wedding photographer yet, and what bride doesn't want to talk about their wedding all the time? It's another opportunity, right?
Yeah,
and I booked 60 weddings in my first year.
Yeah.
Most people would do 5 or 6
at
the time. And I had to put myself in that mindset, literally sit down. A little bit of courage as well, but I'm going to be an actor. I'm pretending I'm being filmed for a show here, and I'm just going to do this and see what we can do. So absolutely,
that's the secret a lot to success. I think you see it. If you read plenty of books, autobiographies, whether you're a rock star, pop star, Beyonce, whatever, when they go on that stage, and when you go into a business meeting or stand in front of a stage of people talking, you can be whoever you want to be. You can leave the nervous person aside, because we're all nervous, and think, right, today I'm going to be the really confident person, act that out, and just be someone else. And it sounds insincere maybe, and it's corporate, but it's really not. You're just being a person within you who you're allowing yourself to be, who maybe your inhibitions might have kept back, and it's just an extension of you. And that is ultimately, how a lot of these people will stand up there and have that kind of success. And exactly that, right down from being on a phone and doing cold calling to standing up in front of audiences. It's a key skill to get your mind around, I think.
Yeah. One question, I've got some random questions going through my mind, which generally happens with me. But obviously with a company which is expanding, such as yourself, and has been established, how do you go about your business premises in terms of expanding and signing a new lease? Because you just don't know, because you could do a massive deal then the following week, couldn't you, and have to employ another 30 or 40 staff. So how do you manage your business premises, or how have you done that in the past?
I guess that question is probably different now. Would have been a year ago, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, I mean, historically, it would have been working the lease around the contract as well and taking relevant risk. I'm a big believer. One of the biggest things is about risk management, understanding risk within the business, and putting controls and mitigating risk as much as possible. So be looking, always look at the detail of the lease. And the only advice I would give on that, and maybe that's from experience, that when you look at a lease, look at it yourself as well. Get a look at it, but read it through yourself and understand it. You may not know every technical term. If you don't know, ask the solicitor, because I've had leases where I've read it and I've raised things and there's been mistakes on there, and that's not just one particular, multiple different solicitors and firms. It's very, very important to read the detail yourself just to get a basic understanding of what's going on, exit clauses and things like that. And then it's a little bit leap of faith, isn't it, as well? When you take your first employee, your first premise, you kind of grit your teeth and jump. But there's an adage that I think is really important. You should always. The Simon Sinek said about sort of leaders eat last and all that kind of thing. But actually, there's another side of that where really you should sometimes pay yourself first, or take these things on, because once you've done that and then you've got bills and people pay afterwards, you will make sure it happens. It's not a selfish thing; it actually puts you drive. So when you get a new lease, because of the contract, once you've got that cost your business, or how I've found is, you will make damn sure that you make sure you get the contracts and the additional service in to cover it. It's a driver fee more than anything.
Yeah, I remember reading in a book. I think it was the guy who set up Hargreaves Lansdown, the stockbrokers. I'm sure they took on a massive premises, but he boarded up a third of it, and everyone thought they were at absolutely capacity. So he just showed you don't need all this space. We can work in this environment. Then he opened it up as they grew, which I thought was quite a clever thing to do. So I think you can, like me, I can encroach in any space anywhere and say that I need it. But actually, I don't. I probably could work in quite a confined space. And in your job, how do you embrace technology? Because obviously with VoIP and various other sort of protocols, it must be something that's constantly changing with you. Is technology something you look at regularly, or just keep abreast of it generally? And how often do you invest in technology?
Yeah, we keep on top of it as a business, but trends, what you tend to find is things appear, and they're going to be the next biggest thing, but generally they do take a lot of time. Use VoIP, for example, it's been around for decades, and I remember having conversations 10, 15 years ago, how we've got to be prepared for this. And even now, it's only really probably starting to come mainstream in the last few years. So you've got to have an eye on it, but you don't have to be necessarily right at the front. Let's see it develop and then bleed it into your business. But for a technology perspective, I always quote for how we use it is we use technology to assist us, but we don't hide behind it. And it's very important from sort of an outsourcing company in a contact center. It goes back to that not being fully script driven. I don't want someone sat there just looking at a script and answering questions, having no clue why or what they're asking really, and just want to get off the call or get home or whatever it might be. I want everyone to sort of be empowered to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and give them a bit more sense of responsibility to help the person they're speaking to. And that's something very much at the core of Lemon. We like to solve problems, and I think you've got to be like that. So it doesn't matter if you're solving sort of a strategy problem with a business, or developing customer journeys and experiences and flowcharts, or you're answering the phone to someone because that person's got an issue there and then, and you're helping them. That's the right way through.
Back here with our members, and we spoke before we press record on this interview, really about the difference between family companies and entrepreneurs and their willingness to outsource. Perhaps you could just elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially, things have changed a lot in last year with the pandemic, and it's kind of opens people's mindset. But what you'll tend to find is when businesses start, they're very protective of the business, and quite rightly so. It's their baby and it means a lot to them. And they'll employ staff and they'll keep things very, very close to the chest. But the problem occurs once the business starts to scale up, and either it will mean the business can't, and they'll just have to keep a small business, which is great. A lot of people want lifestyle businesses, and it really suits what they want to do. But if you want to get bigger and you want to scale up and increase revenue and grow the business, purely out of the fact that that's your aim in life, you want to enjoy that kind of growth and making something from essentially nothing at the beginning. You've got to learn to sort of delegate and allow processes and systems to be let go. Delegation will sometimes be internally, obviously, to your teams, but part of that really is looking for companies to partner with, such as a BPO like Lemon, who can assist you with your growth strategies. because also when you get into it and you allow that kind of freedom, you can scale really flexibly as well. You can lean on them for additional resource, particular project contracts, and then lean back in when it maybe isn't needed. And it just allows that growth without you sort of having to take on all that burden yourself, or even, even worse, be running around like a headless chicken 24/7 trying to do everything literally yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned about people letting go. It's almost like not letting your children go out when they're 18, 19 because you're scared something might happen to them. You just got to let them go, and people are going to make their mistakes. They will learn from them, and they're not going to repeat them.
Yeah, it's that. It's about being nice to, about building a team, empowering them, backing them, being, emotionally connected so they understand how much you appreciate them, be grateful of what they do for you. And I often say to my team in the weekly calls, I'm just so, and this is genuine because, this is not me just kind of building them up. I'm so grateful every day and every week, how committed they are, to my company, to Lemon, and our customers as well. And it's giving them that ability to make mistakes and risk and learn. You try to say, well, this is how I used to do it. You take it on board, and you know what? I tell you what, you suddenly realize you were doing it a certain way, but when you start getting all these people involved, there's lots better ways of doing it. Actually, your way might not have been the best. You can add value, but suddenly these people have all got golden nuggets. Like, where did that come from? And
Yeah.
then it comes from there.
If you don't mind me asking, you've grown the company to approximately 80 members of staff now. Did you go about growing the company organically through your own organic growth in banks, or did you look for outside funding through VCs at any point, or other investments?
No, it has been organic growth really from day one. Obviously, in the early days, we took some sort of personal loans and things to get the business up and running, but we haven't, as a business, gone outside to sort of VCs and things like that. And I don't think it's a course we'll take at the moment in time as a business, really, because we've got a good growth strategy going on in the next 10 years, and we can probably self-fund it. And it's important for any business as part of that to be cash rich and have that. We've learned these lessons in the last 6 months, 12 months, haven't we? You've got to have that money in the bank, really, be self-sufficient. And I think borrowing might have put us at risk, and I'm glad we haven't to this date.
Yeah. Another thing that I felt was very striking, I absolutely loved your website. I see tons of websites, as we all do, but I thought yours particularly stood out and it spoke to me that a lot of thought process has actually gone into that. I thought the design language was particularly nice. Just talk about the process of creating your website, because it's not a case of just taking it to an agency and letting them do it. I think you've had a good connection with that agency or developer to do that. How much time did you invest into your website?
A lot. In short, it is. I've done even the last year. I've landed a whole new omni-channel sort of telephony platform, which is a huge challenge in itself, and delivered a new website. Actually, the website only went live last year, the new one. So thank you for your kind comments about it. There's a lot of thought going into the website. Every detail down to the wording, the tone of voice, the language, how we can be concise with what we're trying to say, the imagery that's used in there, and using the right agency to do that is critically important. And it's got to be, it starts with the vision and the mission and the values of the company, and they're the building blocks of the business. And that goes into the website, because the website is the portal into our world, and it allows companies, prospects to go on there and really see if they connect with us on that level, because we want to work with people who have the same ethos and beliefs as us. That's who we want to partner with. If people don't, then no problem. We just probably not best off working together. So we want to find people and use our website to find people we connect with in that way, and build really strong long-term partnerships for mutual benefits, really, and people we enjoy working with, because we're going to spend a lot of time together.
And how much time do you spend on the technical SEO aspects? Because obviously you can have the most amazing website, but if no one sees it, it's pretty pointless. So I imagine that was also quite a critical factor, that you got the SEO completely right.
Yeah, I mean, SEO is a big thing. PPC for sort of like the Google AdWords campaigns. There's no point in having a lovely shiny car and keeping it in the garage, is there? So you've got to get them things right. And all I would say, a bit like the kind of conversations we've had so far, is find experts in this field, because you know, I'm talking about outsourcing for a BPO for a lemon perspective, and but when you find guys who are really good out there and really good and you connect with them the right level who understand your business and what you want to do, they're the ones that will propel you forward. And you know, the money that you spend on it is not a waste. It is money well spent to allow your business to grow. And that's kind of one of the takeaways I've probably had from the last sort of 20 years in business is, you know, as we said, not try to do everything yourself, but find people who you can team up with who are experts and will do things and allow you to move fast, really move forward and expand.
Yeah, that absolutely agree, and I think that's actually a fine point to end on and people to muse on, because we, as a small business, we look at the expenditure of hiring an expert
Mm.
and think, oh, it's just too much. But actually, that's what's holding us back. And we can have people on a consultancy basis. And yes, it might cost, you know, a few hundred, a few thousand, but the results that can bring you can be absolutely vast. So, you know, completely worthwhile. I've certainly learned, you know, speaking from you, it's been, you know, some fantastic knowledge. So thank you very much, Martin. I'll put all your contact details down below in the description this and also online. But where can people find you anyway?
Yeah, obviously you can find me on LinkedIn if you search Martin Anderson at Lemon Business Solutions, or you can go to our website, which is www.no-sour-business.co.uk.
Ah, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Martin.
Thank you.